In today's video, we're going to be running through my transfer targets ahead of double game week 32, and we're also going to be talking about the top assistant manager picks for this double game week. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, we are trying to hit 13,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your amazing support. So if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Taking a look at how we're getting on then. Obviously, I'm filming this bit before the Newcastle game has taken place tonight. Obviously, we know now that Alexander Isak is fit, and apparently Eddie Howe said he's 100% ready to go. So that's good for next week, obviously, as long as he makes it through tonight's game. As you can see, I didn't captain him this week, so obviously we could still end up on a red arrow. But for now, we are at 16k. Hopefully an Alexander Isak blank, Newcastle clean sheet, and something from Jacob Murphy would be absolutely delicious and really put us back on kind of where we want to get in terms of the top 10k finish. So overall, not a bad week, to be honest. Obviously, Jared Bowen kind of being our saviour a little bit. Mateta obviously a goal. Munoz and Gvardiol doing the business in the back line. But a lot of disappointed performances. Hopefully, like I said, we do get that Alexander Isak blank. We move into the following game week on a green arrow and start progressing, like I said, towards that top 10k. Let's take a look then how my team is lined up. Of course, if I was to make absolutely no transfers heading into double game week 32, and I do feel that is going to be the plan, but of course I have outlined some players I am potentially looking at bringing in. Obviously, there is European football, so we still might pick up potentially some more injuries along the way. But as you can see, it's pretty good, to be honest, this team to go. Obviously, the bench is a little bit flimsy with only really Cons I would feel probably comfortable playing off it. But Bowen, you never know, a Liverpool, but I think with the home fixture, probably can't see them losing that one. But as you can see across the board, we've got triple Palace, we've got triple Newcastle United as well, so we're in a very, very good position. Of course, we don't have Saka, but we do have Cole Palmer with Ipswich at home. You do feel like he probably should be back within the starting 11 for this one, so hopefully he's fit and ready to go for that one. Obviously, the early kickoff with Manchester City as well, taking on Crystal Palace. A few suspensions within their ranks as well, so maybe it could be a positive result for them. But overall, I feel pretty confident with how the team is lined up for double game week 32. We can't really get any more doublers in the side, and I feel like a lot of the players that we do want to have, of course, we've already got within the side. So I do feel very, very comfortable just rolling into double game week 32, taking two transfers into double game week 33, and obviously outlining our plans for that one. But of course, if we were to bring in any players heading into this game week, that is what we're going to talk about in this section. Starting off first though, of course, we want to take a look at which teams you need to be targeting over the next few weeks. This, of course, is coming from Ben Krellin. Make sure you're going and checking out his amazing spreadsheet. It is one of the best things come the end of the season. It gets you in really good shape. It lets you know which teams you need to be targeting and which ones you need to be avoiding. Obviously, we know about the confirmed doubles and blanks for 32, 33 and 34. So these would, of course, be teams I would be looking to invest in, especially if I do have, of course, my free hit in hand as well with 34 in mind. If I don't, probably going to be looking at some Newcastle players. No double in 33, but a great fixture of Ipswich in 34. Wolves have got a pretty decent run for the next two. Then they've got Leicester as well in the blank game week, but if you've got that free hit in your back pocket, definitely going to be looking at City. Villa's an interesting one because I think they'll heavily rotate in that Southampton fixture with, of course, PSG midweek for the Champions League. So I think there'll be some rotation. Same goes with Arsenal as well for that Brentford fixture. We might see Saka potentially on the bench again with, of course, Real Madrid either side of that fixture. Or maybe it is that Ipswich fixture that, of course, he does miss out on. In terms of the doubles later on in the season that are still yet to be confirmed, of course, this is all due to FA Cup progression, and we will find out which teams will be blanking and which teams will be doubling come that week, purely down to game week 34. That is where the FA Cup fixtures sit. So hopefully it is a Manchester City getting through, because it would be great to have a double for them, especially if you've got that free hit in hand. That would be great to see. Bournemouth also with a high probability of progressing, as you can see, with a 64% chance. However, Villa as well still having that percentage chance of a double. And Palace, this would be the ultimate one as well. A triple set of double game weeks would be absolutely fantastic if that, of course, was to happen in game week 36. That would be genuinely unbelievable, and it would put a lot of people in a really, really good position that already, of course, are on Palace players already. So yeah, there's some of the teams I would be looking at, of course, over the next few weeks. Taking a look in terms of my transfer targets then, let's start off first with a man that I wish I'd put on my wildcard. It is, of course, Morgan Rogers. The past few weeks, he's been absolutely smashing it out of the park. 5 appearances, 4 attacking returns during that period as well. The big concern with me, I did outline it in just a second ago, is, of course, the rotation that Aston Villa, for me personally, are going to be seeing over the next few weeks. Champions League football is, of course, going to be the priority, and getting back into it for next season as well is where Villa want to be. So that Southampton fixture, with them already relegated, sacking their manager as well, I think Emery is probably going to put out a very heavily rotated side. He'll feel comfortable that his rotated players could get him the 3 points that he needs, and I do feel like either Morgan Rogers sees maybe an early substitution in this one, or potentially doesn't even start and maybe doesn't even come off the bench, with, of course, the PSG fixtures being either side of that. Then you follow that up with 2 of their main Champions League rivals in terms of Newcastle and Manchester City as well. You feel like those games are also going to carry more weight than the Southampton fixture. So, of course, if you are looking to potentially rotate your squad, it is that Southampton fixture that I think Unai Emery will be looking at as a main contention point in terms of their rotation strategy. So that, for me, is the big concern with bringing Rodgers in this week. I think it's an absolutely great fixture to, of course, attack. But with, like I said, that Champions League and European football making him a little bit of a doubt, I don't think he's going to be the one for this week. I'm definitely going to be looking at him, though, in double game week 33. 2 massive games for Aston Villa, and you feel if they could win both of those, they will definitely be putting themselves in kind of contention for Champions League football next season. In terms of the other players then that I am looking at, we saw with my squad how it is lining up. We do need, of course, a Gabriel replacement, with him out for the remainder of the season. And the 2 players that I am currently looking at are Ruben Diaz and Kiwior. Now, I'll explain Diaz first because I feel Kiwior is probably a little bit more self-explanatory, but Ruben Diaz is in here because he does have the double in 33. Great. Obviously, I've got that free hit in hand in 34, so I don't have to worry about the blank. Then I said, with that high probability of City getting back-to-back double game weeks, I'm really, really interested in investing in it. Obviously, we've seen Savinho's been dropped, Foden's been dropped. I just don't think I could trust another midfielder outside, of course, you know, we've got Marmoush, we've got Gvardiol already in the side, so I think maybe going double defence might be potentially the play. And if you've not seen over the recent weeks, people have been moaning about, you know, the entertainment factor within the Premier League, and if you look at the betting data and the XG data, it is all suggesting that there's lower XG kicking about and there's better XG conceded kicking about, suggesting a more kind of conservative way of playing the game at the moment, and a lot more kind of teams are set up a little bit more defensively, so we're probably not going to see as many high scoring games, free flowing games, and that is putting in my mind, maybe I go for that double City defence rather than City attack, especially if they do get lucky and get that double game week in 36. We could be in a really positive position, having both Diaz and Gvardiol, 2 players I think will see very, very good minutes over the next few, of course, with no European football for Manchester City. Kiwior, though, is the other alternative I am looking at. Of course, gets me back into that Arsenal defence where I did initially have the investment. But the big concern again is going to be around rotation, with, of course, Arsenal falling away with kind of injuries at the back. You do wonder maybe he is prioritised for those Champions League fixtures. Again, might potentially sit out of the Ipswich fixture or the Brentford fixture, for example, this weekend, and that would be my big concern. But maybe by the time we get to the double game week, we'll understand Arsenal's position a little bit better, and definitely an investment into Kiwior could be one that I could see myself making, to be honest, at 4.8 million. Could be a really, really cheap steal. I could, of course, go for Saliba if I wanted to go down that route, but I think going for Kiwior, as you'll see when we get onto the transfer plans, does allow me to make a lot more moves and have a lot more freedom within the side for future game weeks as well. Moving on then, before we head to look at my team for game week 32 and beyond, is of course the assistant manager predicted points heading into the game week 32, should I say. So I think the 2 that you should be picking this week are, of course, going to be Glasner or Eddie Howe. Both have got the double game weeks. I would not be looking at any other manager. Of course, maybe David Moyes could do the business with, of course, Nottingham Forest away, that table bonus as well. Forest really missing Chris Wood at the moment. That could be one that potentially could throw a curveball in there. But for me, I probably would be looking at Glasner. 2 chances of table bonus. Great. Obviously, you probably wouldn't back them in either of them, but if they can manage to squeak a draw out of one of those games, you're talking mad points for Oliver Glasner. Eddie Howe, on the other hand, there is no table bonus, but they are probably favourites heading into both games. home fixtures for both of them as well, so you could be looking at just a nice tidy sum if they especially win comfortably across both of those games as well. If I'd already gone for Eddie Howe this week, I probably would just stick with him for game week 32, then of course look to replace him in game week 33. Let me know if you are on the assistant manager chip, which way you are potentially thinking of going for this week. Okay, wasting no time, let's dive into my transfer plans. Like I said, I'm probably just going to leave it for this game week. I don't really see any kind of moves that I'm absolutely desperate to make. Like I said, we've already got triple Newcastle and we've already got triple Crystal Palace. So I probably am just going to roll the transfer and head into game week 33, or double game week 33, should I say, with 3 transfers in hand. Now, this is option 1 that I have gone for. As you can see, we've taken Jacob Murphy out, we've taken Alexander Isak out, and we have taken out Gabriel. We brought in Ruben Diaz, obviously, who I spoke about, Morgan Rogers, who I spoke about, but Watkins would be the one. Again, it would be a big doubt on his minutes, whether or not we are going to see him play decent minutes across the board. I just think, again, though, with that double game week, I would be absolutely desperate. And again, there is that possibility that Villa do get another double game week in 36. I do think that could be a good move. But at the moment, his minutes do seem very, very dicey. And I don't know whether or not I would be, you know, kind of foolish to, of course, gamble on something like that, but it's definitely something I am thinking about. Obviously, like I said, would give me that double City defence. It'd give me a full, pretty much, team of doublers heading into that week, and of course, we'd have a pretty strong bench boost to go with it. If, of course, I was to obviously put everybody in the team, I think we'd only have one player not doubling, and it'd be Mohamed Salah. And then, as you can see, Southampton for 2 players. We'd have Palmer with Fulham, and we'd have Dan Burn, unfortunately, with Villa, but still, decent team across the board. Obviously, heading into the next few weeks as well, game week 34, we would definitely be playing a free hit with pretty much most of our 11, of course, not really there. And then heading into game week 35, we'd have 1 free transfer to, of course, use for this week. But I feel, again, the team probably would be looking pretty decent across the board if we were to, of course, go for this option. Option 2, though, heading into this week, again, we probably would just roll. I think that's probably going to be the play for this week. But game week 33, as you can see, this is where things get spicy. This would require a -4 to do all these moves, but I feel very, very confident that it could, of course, play off. We do Gabriel to Ruben. We do Dan Burn to Kivior. We do Jacob Murphy to Rogers, and of course we would get rid of Cole Palmer and we would have Saka within our side. I do feel like if Saka, you know, maybe Arsenal go out of the Champions League and they're fully expecting just to focus solely on the Premier League, because they're not out of the Premier League title race, with Liverpool slipping up a little bit at the moment, I think Saka could be a really, really decent captain's option if we know his minutes are definitely going to be secured. And I definitely feel this team, in terms of kind of a bench boost, would look a ridiculously lot stronger. As you can see, we'd pretty much we could get ourselves a full starting 11 if we wanted to, just like that. And then our bench would basically consist of Areola, Bowen, Salah, and Isak, and I really, really like that as a side. I think that could be really tasty and good for a -4. Of course, we're playing the bench boost as well, but you're not complaining when 2 of your players, especially even Mohamed Salah, playing against Leicester as well. You're really, really not complaining with that as a potential bench boost. Of course, heading into 34, we'd be in a position where we would just be playing that free hit again, we know that. And then game week 35 on the other side of it. Again, I feel like this team very easily could comfortably get by, to be honest. Of course, we've got Saka against Bournemouth, who've looked a little bit shaky in recent weeks. We've got the triple up of Manchester City players against Wolves. Triple Palace still, but Nottingham Forest I don't think is the worst fixture in the world. Salah can drop back in for the Chelsea fixture. So overall, again, I feel the team would look pretty comfortable as is. Let me know if you enjoyed today's video. Let me know your transfer plans as well down in the comment section. We'll try and help you, as many of you, out as possible. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in double game week 32.